The Greater Accra Regional Executive Committee of the Opposition NPP challenges the National Election Committee's mandate, saying it does not extend to the conduct of constituency elections within the various regions of Ghana. My name is Bright Nanamfo, and this is today's big story. The Greater Accra Regional NPP Executive Committee, in a release signed by the chairman, Emmanuel, called on the National Elections Committee to work solely within the confines of their mandate and allow for peace in the various constituencies, especially the Okaikwe South and North and Krowo constituencies. Meanwhile, an executive of the party has said they are waiting report on the issue before they can comment. Let me quickly go onto the phone lines. Emmanuel is the chairman of the party in the Greater Accra region. Thanks so much for joining us, Mr. Ashite.
Thank you very much.
First of all, the National Committee are looking at the elections. Is it the suggestion that it is overstepping its mandate by meddling in elections in constituencies? Is that the case?
Yes, that is the case. That the Elections Committee is an ad hoc committee.
Right.
That was formed by the National Executive Committee meeting to oversee the national elections. Well, we have got the voting committee, which is a standing committee, and it seems as if the members of the standing voting committee have found themselves also in the elections committee with some few additions. The elections committee has been mandated by the National Executive Committee to only go look after the national elections.
Right.
And as soon as they finish with that, their mandate is over.
Why do you think that, and why do you say they are meddling in constituency elections then?
Yes, we went through the polling station elections. We used our constitution and guidelines from the National Executive Committee, that is of the party. We finished with that one, and we went for the constituency elections, where the guidelines specify, and also the constitution specify, who to the National Election Committee, whose mandate is only to carry out elections at the national level.
But you said they were just asking of what might have happened in that constituency, and you think it is meddling or overstepping their mandate?
Yes, elections. There was elections there. We contacted the Electoral Commission. All these elections, we have asked the Electoral Commission to carry the elections for us, whilst we supervise. The Electoral Commission went to that constituency, organized elections, free and fair elections, and well, after that, some few individuals were complaining. Instead of going through our grievance procedure, by petitioning the region, and if there is anything that they are not satisfied with at the region, they go to the National Steering Committee. They didn't do that, and I think some people went to the National Elections Committee, which have no mandate whatsoever to oversee such issues.
And these people who went to the National Election Committee, was it simply the fact that they did not understand the constitution of a party?
I think so. I think some of them don't understand, and it should have been the responsibility of the National Elections Committee to explain the procedures to them. But they decided to sit in and then handle such issue. I know they don't have that mandate, and it is not something that the Greater Accra region will sit down and allow it to go. We will not allow that.
Is it not one other issue perhaps that is going to also cause some more tension in the party?
Oh, no. You see, some people find themselves in some places at times, and they think they can do everything. Like I'm telling you, the National Election Committee is an ad hoc committee. The vetting committee is a standing committee. Well, I don't know whether because they are in the vetting committee, which is a standing committee, and they have found themselves in the National Elections Committee, they think they can do everything. I don't know. I don't know why they are trying to overstep their boundaries.
It's not in any way going to affect, cause any rift in the party now?
Well, I don't think that is. We must all try to understand. If we are facing problems, let's go and take our constitution and read. I'm not a lawyer, but so when I'm having problems with the constitution, I always ask lawyers to explain to me. Well, this, as the written, is very clear that any layman who can read and write and understand simple English will understand that the National Election Committee has no mandate whatsoever in dabbling in constituency, regional elections.
We'll try hard and speak to the election committee, but what exactly is happening to these three constituencies, the elections, the Okaikwe North, South, and the Krowo constituencies?
Okaikwe North constituency, there was this problem where we asked them to go out there and prepare this album for their election. The executives were in two parts. One part is supporting the MP and the other part was against. So it was like that. We asked them on so many occasions to prepare that album. They were not able to do that. As for the overseers of the constituency, the regional executive, we went in and then used the coordinators, and we were able to go to the 38 meeting places in the constituency to hold elections, to select people as polling station executives. We came back and prepared the album at the regional office ourselves. And then we gave the album to be used for that election. Unfortunately, some people felt that, the album is not favoring them. Well, the album will favor you if only you are in touch with the 38 meeting locations in the constituency. So those of them who were in touch, always in touch with the 38 constituency meeting places, they were okay with the album. Those who have not been going there, those who have never visited any of the meeting places, they were not satisfied. And during the middle of the election, they decided that they will not continue again when they have already presented themselves and voting have started. So the Electoral Commission allowed voting to take place. And when they finished, some people won and some lost. Those who lost, some of them who lost, said, they didn't like the album, which would have allowed they themselves to also bring another album, which I don't think is the right thing to do. So it is not an issue that we should look at. The elections was over, the result was declared. I received a report from the Electoral Commission that the elections have been concluded, everything was free and fair, and that ends the matter. I mean, we don't need to go back and revisit that again. And the region is not prepared to go back and start talking about Okaikwe North again.
So in your estimation...
with Okaikwe South, there was a little bit of problem with some of the people. When they filed for nominations, most of the places, the people went unopposed. There were about 4 places that people were contesting. Unfortunately, during the vetting process, they realized that some people have gone to forge signatures of other people on their forms. And the guidelines was very clear that those people should be disqualified. Well, we were with that, and they were not happy. Some people were not happy. They went to court. So the case is in court. We are contesting it. As soon as we finish, we will go back and run that election. Those people who went to court because they think that they are being disqualified for forgery, now have turned and said that, look, they should change the album.
Right.
And that is also creating a problem. But we are challenging that in court, and as soon as we are able to go through, we will go there and hold the election. The same is like Krowo. Krowo, we feel a particular individual is trying to meddle and bulldoze his way there, try to force the Constituency Executive Committee, who have been mandated to prepare the album and hold the elections, that he should also be considered in the compilation of the register and then supervision of the running of the elections. But he hasn't got that locus because the guidelines and the Constitution says that should be done by the Constituency Executive Committee and not anybody else. And so they also went to court, and the case is in court. I later realized the conflict of interest. The lawyer we took happened to be somebody who is interested in the case, so I have to withdraw him, and then we have gone for another lawyer. The lawyer is pursuing the case. So these are issues that we are working on, and this election committee coming in, if they don't take that, they will muddy the waters and things will be too much for the party. I don't think we should allow them to go that way.
Perhaps isn't these challenges with these constituencies about albums and the fact that certain individuals are trying to bulldoze their way into certain places? That is why the National Elections Committee wants to step in.
Yes, some of them have found themselves also in the National Election Committee, and therefore they are using their influence at that place to also bulldoze their way so that they declare some of these things, some of these albums not proper.
Right.
But like I'm saying, we at the region, for some of them, I was the regional chairman then, and I'm still now the regional chairman. I know what actually took place, and I will not sit down and allow them to mess with these issues in the region.
Now, this statement that was released by the regional office, what has been the response of the national office of the party?
Well, that is another thing. They have to. I know at this moment they have to be a little bit careful. Some of them are taking positions in the party again. Unfortunately, most of them are not in town. They've traveled to the various regions campaigning, and nothing came before them. It is the elections committee that is trying to create this problem. When it gets to a certain level, then it means the National Steering Committee has to come in, and if possible, then the National Executive Committee will have to come in to see whether they really have the mandate or not to do what they are doing.
And you think that it will get to that extent where the National Executive Committee will have to come in?
If they know the mandate which has been given to them. You know, I'm a member of the National Executive Committee,
right,
and I'm a member of the National Council.
Right.
So I know what took place at both meetings before they were selected. And therefore, nobody can come and tell me anything different. The National Election Committee is an ad hoc committee. They were just put together to run the national elections. The Pressing Committee, which is a standing committee, which is there, they have chairman in the standing committees under the National Council. They are there when the time comes, and their mandate is only to vet the presidential candidate. It's a whole lot of issues that they have to look at. They have to go into our constitution, see what they can do and what they cannot do. If they can do that, it is written there very clear. They will see that, and they will see that they don't have the right to meddle in what they are doing.
Would you say that getting ready for Tamale in April, all these challenges can be dealt with by the party?
You see, that is one problem these people who have just been put together as an adult committee don't see. There are people who always will like to create problems at various levels. We are fighting very hard to make sure that we go to court to set aside those issues that those people have taken to court to give pave way for these people to have the election so that they can also go to Tamale. Unfortunately, look at what the National Election Committee, who have been mandated to only go out there and do national election, look at what they are doing. They have the right to say that, no, those maybe Okankwe North will not take part in the national elections. But what we actually encourage them or make them to come out to start the city, they cannot. If they do, we will take the process or the case a little further. And if we don't take them, that is going to affect the whole process that we are trying to run for the party. it is not in anybody's interest. If they have a colleague who is having a problem in his constituency with them, they should know that they are doing a work for a very big party, and they should not be thinking of their friends and colleagues at that level to create such problems. Like I've said, the region will never allow them to go the way they are going.
The region will not allow them, but from where you sit, do you see the three constituencies as a threat to the upcoming Congress in Tamale?
No, there are three constituencies. Only one will be threatened. Two, the case is in court, and as we believe in the rule of law, we will not do anything. We'll go to the courts, and if the courts give us the go-ahead, we do. But that one, which has gone through the process, I don't think anybody have got, except maybe the national, somebody comes to petition or appeal to the regional executive committee, and then maybe the person is not satisfied, go to the national executive committee, which I don't think anybody has got time to sit on those cases. Then maybe something will happen. But the way as it is, I don't believe anybody has got the power just to come and say that, look, we won't allow you to go there. This is a full constituency, and I don't think they themselves will even sit down and allow such things to happen. I don't believe so.
Honorable Ismail Ashite, thanks so much for speaking to me. The chairman of the Greater Accra New Patriotic Party, Mr. Ismail Ashite, there talking to me about issues that has to do with the elections. The regional steering committee is asking the National Elections Committee to stay clear of its elections in these constituencies, Okaikwe North, Okaikwe South, and Krowo. I tried hard to get the Director of Elections, Martin Ejekos, and he said that the National Elections Committee has received a copy of this letter from the Greater Accra Regional Secretariat, and they're looking at the letter and are waiting for a report before commenting on this particular issue. This is the big story. We'll take a breather here. Coming back in a moment. Welcome back. Let me also tell you what is happening there with the issue of the water. Now, the plan to shut down the Kpong water transmission plant next Monday is on hold. Engineers are trying to fully restore the Weja transmission line first. The Water Resources, Works and Housing Minister Collins Dada says engineers working on the Weja plant have been given tomorrow, Saturday, February 22, that's the deadline to fix the plant.
When we planned this operation, we didn't know that we'll have a problem at Weja. But today we have a problem at Weja. We have shut down the Weja plant as a result of the defect on the transmission line. We are working on it. Yesterday, we were all there in the night to ensure that we bring the pipe out to be worked upon and fixed back. Today, the team is right there working. And I plead with you from here, we'll go back to Weja and see the progress of work with regards to Weja. Now, until that one is fixed, and we can assure ourselves that we will not have any problem in terms of producing from Weja, we may not carry out this exercise. It will not make sense to shut down Weja and also shut down Kpong. It's irrational, and we are not here to do irrational things.
According to the Water Resources, Works and Housing Minister, on shutting down both the Kpong and the Weja dam. Now, the minister again says that PRC's directive for the water company to stop the shutdown is needless.
For me, it's needless. Because, as I said, we cannot shut down, we cannot have a problem at Weja, as a result of which we shut down Weja and close our eyes to shut down Kpong. We won't do that. And therefore, for me, that, whether it's an order or advice or whatever, for me, it's a needless something. We are focused, we are working to ensure that our people are served better. We will not do something that will unnecessarily create problem for our consumers and therefore the people of this country.
Right, working hard to get water into our homes, said Minister for Water Resources, Works and Housing. They're wrapping up the first part of the show for this Friday, and when we get into the second part, we'll get interactive with you and tell you what's on your mind. Just tell us and we'll share it with the rest of the world. My name is Brian Anamf. I'm coming back with the second part of the show. Welcome to the second segment interactive. It's a Friday. Gladys, welcome. We're mourning Komla. The funeral service has just started, and so a lot more issues we will talk about. But what's trending today?
Everybody's talking about Komla and giving their farewell messages and all. It's pretty a sad day. We're observing it quietly.
Welcome to the show, Gladys.
Thank you, Nana. Welcome to the interactive segment. Thanks for joining us. My name is Gladys Osei already. Let's spend the moments together via our social media platforms, facebook.com/joynewsontv, twitter.com/joynewsontv. The handles are @joynewsontv and #JNInteractiveG8. Email us via joynewsim@multitvworld.com. Let's get the conversation going. Tell us, how do you feel about the loss of a brother, a comrade, an ace broadcaster who made Ghana proud on the world stage? Today, it's actually dawned on me, most of us, that Komla Dumont has indeed left us. As he laid lifeless, tears rolled down the cheeks of many who thought he shouldn't have gone so soon. Many other words that have been used to describe Komla. Joy News spotted some of Komla's friends, and they shared some memories.
I think that he should be remembered for his excellence, his hard work, his dedication to his job. I think he was a great example to the youth, precisely because of that. His perfectionism shone out in everything he did. And I think if we take that as what Komla stood for, it would be a very progressive memory of him.
Most people are saying that we should rather celebrate him rather than mourn him at this particular moment. Do you share in the same sentiments?
I guess it's the way you need to look at these things. I mean, he was such a gift to society. His contributions were so great that even though he's dead and we mourn his death and his passing, we can't help but rejoice in the gifts that he gave in the first place. So it's a bit of both, yes.
Now that he's gone, what would you miss the most? One thing.
I would miss his wit. I'd miss his wit the most. He was a very humorous chap and very, very funny when he was ready. That's what I'll miss the most.
I think that Charles has summed it up. I think when you speak to any one of his friends who's a genuine friend, then you speak to all of them, and there will be nothing to add. I think we should just note, as Charles says, his wit, because his wit says so much. You know, sense of humor, sharpness of, doesn't suffer fools, naughtiness. It encapsulates everything, and I think once it is that you speak to one of his genuine friends, you've spoken to anybody, to all of them.
Charles, number 2, where do we go from here?
In terms of our lives, or really, look, Komla is the guy who stood for integrity. Komla is the guy who didn't see barriers to progress. He was not your man who would be looking for money. He wanted things to happen. And he would say, look, Charles, let's get it done. We can do it. And he was passionate also about Ghana and Africa. And therefore, a few times he would call me at dawn, and then we would discuss an issue that had arisen either in Ghana or Africa. And then the way we would discuss it as if we are running a government or we are running an issue. The real point is that the guy wanted things to happen. For me, I think that nothing should be a barrier for me from now on. I've always sat back and said, let it wait. No. With what had happened, I'll move things forward, just in his honor. That's all.
DJ President Afel Money also spoke about Komla.
On 18th January, when we were hit by that earth-shattering news that Komla had kicked the bucket, many were those who were struggling to reconcile themselves to the blatant truth that indeed we have lost Komla to the grips of mortality. But as I saw his lifeless body in the casket, it sank in for the first time that indeed it is true that Komla, with such unique voice, the texture and color of his voice were unique. His smiles were infectious, his confidence contagious, and his command of the English language is impeccable. You know, his professional mastery, you know, even in death, speaks volumes about the quality of such a gem. And as the Bishop Pambaka said, we ought to learn from him, irrespective of your age. We ought to learn from such a gem. Komla made a statement which is lodged in my memory, and that statement is, I take my job seriously. Indeed, he took his job so seriously to the extent that he was able to pull himself up by his bootstraps, because he didn't have a litany of degrees in journalism-related subjects. But, you know, in no time, his conspicuous dazzle on the local international media scene, you know, was so glaring for everybody to see.
We also spoke with some politicians.
Yeah, I think the ceremony was very solemn, but it's also a measure of the man. You saw his portrait there with that engaging smile, which endeared him to a lot of people. But I think his whole demeanor, the way he took his work seriously, paying attention to detail, not being a sycophant for some politicians, but being able to speak his mind based on the facts as he knew them. I think we've lost somebody, and there's a lot that many of us, especially in your profession, can learn from this young man. That you don't have to get into the adulation of others in order to advance yourself. What is important is that if you're a consummate professional, deal with the facts, interpret them the way you think they should be interpreted. And I think Komla Dumont speaks volumes for all of us.
Because he was a shining light. He was an icon. He was somebody who made something out of what God gave him. That is really what we're all here for. God gives us certain gifts. It's up to you to make the most of those gifts. Komla certainly did that. He made the most of every gift that he had. And, and he's made the most of the gifts that he had because he stood for principles. He had his principles, and he stood for something. It wasn't just selling himself to anybody or waffling here or waffling there or changing sides and whatever. Where he was is where he stood, and where he stood was where he was.
Komla was the easiest presenter that you can have. Producing the morning show at that time in Ghana's history and the development of broadcasting was exciting. It was challenging, but Komla dealt with both the soft and hard issues. Even up to now, presenter-producer relationships in our media is not the best, because many presenters think that because they are on air, they are the ones that are seen, they are the all in all. That was not Komla. And as I've always said, I left that show with a very, very good appreciation and understanding of what my role is supposed to be. Komla and I related as brothers, as friends, but when we get into the studio, it is work. And as he says, you do not have to be friends to be working together. So he understood my role. So if we say that, Komla, we are going to spend just 5 minutes on this interview, the interview starts rolling and we think that we have to do it in 3 minutes or we have to extend it to 10 minutes, we know how to communicate and say, Komla, let's go for 10 minutes. And he will not complain. We'll get it to go. And when you watch him on the BBC critically, when he is interviewing people, you will see that this is a presenter that is disciplined, that is a presenter that has a certain professionalism about his work, because you can see when he is ending the interview because he's been prompted by the producer to end the interview or move to a different subject.
Former Minister of State Elizabeth Ofus-Ohene described Komla Dumont as a man who just wanted to be a master of his game.
Komla?
I knew him first of all as a child. I went to the university with his mother, and I don't know if you know that his mother used to teach piano. So my son, who is about the same age as Komla, I think Komla is a few months older than my son. So when my son was about 5, she used to teach him how to play the piano. So I used to take my son to their house. I think they lived in Adabraka at the time, for him to teach him how to play. So that's how I got to know him first as a child. And then, of course, we parted ways. And when I came back to Ghana in the year 2000, and he was with Joy, and went straight into public life, then, you couldn't avoid him. He couldn't avoid me. So that's how we got to know each other quite well. Komla had a way of dominating a program, dominating the airwaves when he is on. I think that everybody will miss. Above all, I think he was a good anchor. That was his strongest point, that he was a good anchor. And that, I'm sure, sometimes good anchors come once in a while. Maybe good reporters also come once in a while, but good anchors certainly come once in a while. And he was certainly a good anchor. And it will take them a
it's so funny when you ask people this question. What will be your reaction if you went to a funeral and the dead person suddenly woke up? Well, we have been asking you the same question on our Facebook wall This morning at Commonwealth service, Archbishop Gabriel Charles Palmer Buckle, during his sermon, asked, how many of you indeed will stay here if Komla were to wake up? You have been sharing your thoughts with us on Facebook and telling us what exactly you would do. Apode Felix just goes laughing. He bursts out laughing. Pa Bonku says, will you multimedia stay there and watch his resurrection? Yaya Boa says, wish he could come back. Savior Nelson Sogbe says, not a single immortal being will be there. Richmond Wosumpin says, it will be something. Nancy Fortune says, speed. No chrono. Flora says, he's alive in Christ. Michael Ajono says, no one, everybody's kate. Savior Nelson says, but I believe he will on the day of resurrection. Ruhia Mahama says, that humor was indeed in this very sad mood. Okay, that humor was needed in this very sad mood. Forgive me there. Ades Joe says, I will. Really, Ades? Nice one there. Katako says, is he also sure he will stand if Komla should wake up? Samuel Possible's case says, say it again. No one will. Christian Salvo says, well, I think that it's possible to happen because may his soul be received by the angels to heaven. Amen. Nana Mapiesi says, she also goes laughing. Martha William says, some might stay, some might run, but one day we will all meet where nobody will run. Wisdom says, indeed, no one will stand. So Rebecca goes laughing. Frederick says, I will. Frederick Boama Ahinkra says, ha 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 ha, on your marks. So get said, hey, you're gone. Prince Seth Edukra says, hard talk. Abdul Kudos says, none of them. I believe it's impossible except Judgment Day. Cynthia Christabel gives a sigh. Munira Amadou says, no one will run away. Are you sure, Munira? You've got to be there yourself to experience it. Richard Boahine says, we will know only if he wakes up. Amadou Aremial says, I will run 100 meters. Latif says, that's the will of God. Defensi Agbafe says, I will stay. Jedua says, Komla Dumo, R.I.P. Yaira says, rest in peace, Komla, the boss player. Michael Inti says, a rhetorical question, brood over it, no answers. George Aqua Morgan says, I'm sure I may collapse, although I have never collapsed. That would be your first experience. Janet says, nobody. Nicole says, I heard it and it was like, hey babe, run away. Mohammed Mustafa says, oh, my role model, rest in perfect peace. Steven says, nobody. Sedem Suman says, difficult question, but we wish he didn't die now. If God was here, Komla wouldn't have died. Aflo Joshua says, I will stand to see what will happen. You are a curious cat. Aflo. Jabba Ebenezer says, no one. Rescue Sedem Bekle says, I will, my homeboy, rest in the bosom of your creator, a life well lived. Theophilus Eduku says, God, please let Komla Dumo wake up from death in Jesus' name. A prayer we all have said, and God knows best, Theophilus. Prince of Fosu says, not even a single soul will stay there. Even his father and siblings will run away from him. Al-Hassan Issa says, I will because I have no hand in his death. Okay. King Homework says, I will. Aram the day, I will. Chiote Boateng says, lies, Ghanaians are indeed free. So why are you accusing Ghanaians? What have we done? McBride Brent says, I will. Okay, so Boateng comes back to say he will never wake up after being inside fridge for God knows how many days. Ghanaians, they joke, Papa. Okay, so Asidi Davis Rufus says, come and see speed. Yeah, you're on your heels. Victor Junior Skumi says, I will, if you can't, don't question my answer. Richard Opoku says, the Ebusiapeni will be the first one to run away, leaving his morning cloth. Alibo says, I will, but if he is coming closer, I will run. It's the same thing, you still run. Lambert says, I'll run seriously because I don't know how angry he is over his death. Interesting, Lambert. You don't know how angry he is about his death, so you run. Okay. Kofi Tremor says, may his soul rest in perfect peace. Listo Bonwell, well noted, lover. Okay, so Mike Abaka says, it is really true, so let us accept it how it is, even though it's painful. God knows best. Florence Dede says, I am waiting for that. Mensa Ebenezer says, I can't stand, but many are those who will run, including the cameraman, Komla, my brother, my mentor, R.I.P. Evangelist Mugabe says, may his soul rest in perfect peace. Reginald Cortes says, away, you go run like something. Ibrahim Ali says, I don't think we will even see his own family member there, though it's painful, but we have to give thanks to God. He knows what is good. Pearl Kete says, may God keep him safe for us. Let me just quickly take two more. Amma says, ha ha ha, cheer, me of course. Okay, so Johannes Akrofi says, nobody will remain here, not even those who say they will go with him. And Majid, my final Facebook comment says, it is the wish of our Maker. And Blue Zone says, may his gentle soul rest in God. Amen. Indeed, may God receive his gentle soul and give him a comfortable place of rest. That's how we draw the curtains on JN Interactive, Nana.
Right, and we'll continue to mourn Komla. The liturgical service is tomorrow at the forecourt of the State House, and more tribute will be read there. But at 8 o'clock, we'll tell you exactly what the Metropolitan Archbishop of Accra, the Most Reverend Charles Palmer Bakil, told the assembled at the Holy Spirit Cathedral, and he told them to emulate the life and work ethics of Komla Dumor. We'll tell you more about the Requiem Mass later on at 8 o'clock.
At 8, we again will also tell you about the Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana, Professor Ernest Aite, who has announced the suspension of the tolling policy with immediate effect. This actually follows a directive from government and a promise to pay an amount of $2.3 million the university had contracted for infrastructural projects. The details, we'll give that to you during
And a sad one, at 8 o'clock, 6 vehicles were burnt in an accident at the Swami roundabout in Kumasi after a petrol tanker caught fire. The fire is said to have spread to other vehicles behind the tanker, including another tanker that was carrying diesel. Now, we are told that fire service managed to get there and put the fire out, but not after a long struggle. We'll tell you more and show you more pictures of the disaster at 8 o'clock. And fortunately for us, no one was hurt or injured in the blaze there. At 8 o'clock, watch more pictures of that incident there in Kumasi. Thanks so much for staying there. And it's a weekend. Stay good and healthy. My name is Bright Nanamfu.
My name is Gladys Osei Oredi. Please heed to the next advice. Stay healthy.